I hate to edit, and I bet that you're watching this video because you hate to edit too. If you stick with me, I'll explain my process that's made the editing for me go a whole heck of a lot faster. So, one of the writing books that I've got is by a guy named Dean Wesley Smith. And the book is called Writing into the Dark. And in the book, he talks about a process called cycling. Now, cycling, in Wesley Smith's case, is where he writes 500 words or so. He gets stuck in the story because he's a pantser. And then he cycles back to the beginning of that 500 words. And he makes minor tweaks or edits 500 words at a time. And by the time he gets done with those 500 words, then he's gained enough momentum to go on and write the next 500 words. Now, this guy's written hundreds of books, he says. Ghostwritten, published books under his own name. He's almost like a pulp writer of the 20s and 30s, back in the heyday of pulp writing. So what I've started to do is I use a process very similar. Now, you know that I'm a proponent of plotting. And the way I plot is I use a series of questions for the scene that I'm writing. And then I write to those questions. But what I've started to do as I finish a scene is I go back to the beginning of the scene and I make the edits that I would make when I edit my final draft. Now, the cool thing about this process is that when I do this and I get to the end of the story, it's essentially already been edited once and sometimes several times. And it's pretty polished. Sometimes I don't have to do any more editing. It's a finished story. So my first draft really is my final draft. Now, I've watched a video by an author named Jenkins where he uses a process that's very similar to this, except in his process, what Jenkins does is he'll crank out the words that he's decided to do for today. And then on the next day, the first thing he does in the morning is he goes back and edits what he wrote the day before. And then from that point, he writes the words or the scene that he's chosen to do for that day. And he continually repeats this process until he's finished with the story. So what I want to tell you is that this has turned out to be kind of a game changer for me. It eliminates a whole lot of that, oh my God, I'm going to have to freaking edit this when I get done, to, if I really wanted to, I could probably just go ahead and publish this the way that I want to, or hand it off to a beta reader, or turn it over to whoever I'm writing the story for feedback. Because we all know that a lot of our first drafts are crap. Like there's no other way to put it. They're just horrible. So what I'd like to encourage you to do today is to do a tiny experiment. And I really like the idea of tiny experiments. So a tiny experiment is when you have an idea and you want to try it out. You don't want to commit a ton of time to it. You just want to see if it works for you. So my challenge for you today is to start a new short story. And I don't care if you're a pantser or a plotter. It doesn't really matter. Write 250 to 500 words, and then cycle back to the beginning of that block of text and edit it like you would if it was a final draft. And then I want you to go on to the next 250 or 500 words and repeat the process until you're finished with the story. And I think what you'll find is that when you're done, you're going to have a pretty polished story. Now, I don't care if you do it all in one day, or if you do like Jenkins does, you have a word goal for today and tomorrow. When you open your laptop to write, you go back and edit. It doesn't really matter. This is your experiment. You do it the way you want to. I've told you how I do it, and I've told you how Wesley Smith does it, and I've told you how Jerry Jenkins does it. So give it a try and let me know in the comments if this works for you. But I think you're really going to like it. And you may decide that it's a wonderful thing, and you may decide that it's a waste of time for you. Either way, that's okay. It lets you know one more thing about how to write. And really, that's what writing's all about. It's just a journey where you try a bunch of different things until you settle on a process in your own voice to tell stories that other people will want to read. So if you like this video, if you think it helps, please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, happy writing.